Hello and welcome to The Pulse. New technology is a really good thing, is it not? But what about when it's responsible for the so-called disruptive economy? One of the best-known examples is the on-demand ride-hailing business Uber. The poor old Hong Kong government is finding it rather hard to come to grips with this development. Invest Hong Kong initially supported Uber. More recently, 5 of its drivers were convicted for working for it. Another recent newcomer to the market focuses on renting bicycles through a mobile app. But it too is facing obstacles. We report on the issues facing these new businesses in part 2. But first, Hong Kong has a poor record for supporting the elderly poor, has limited resources for the public health service, and when it comes to housing for the less well-off, well, let's say that seems to be on the too hard list. But there's always public money for Mickey Mouse. Hong Kong Disneyland has been controversial from the start, even though Hong Kong's coffers covered more than 80% of the initial $23 billion cost of the project. The government has just a 57% share in the joint venture. There was even more controversy when, despite the hefty injection of public money, the park initially refused to release attendance figures. They were not spectacular. It has turned a profit for only 3 of its first 11 years in operation. Now Disney wants to expand, and it wants Hong Kong to help pay for it. And here's where we enter the magical kingdom of Hong Kong government studies and pixie dust. According to the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development, Greg So, a risk test shows the city could lose up to $31.6 billion over 40 years if it doesn't spend $5.45 billion right now.
迪士尼好清楚話俾大家聽咧，係 take a leave it。如果唔係呢一屆政府，下一屆政府咧，佢都唔會攞個再好啲嘅 deal 出嚟嘅。
呢個係你第一次聽啊，抑或係較早嘅階段，迪士尼已經同你講呢個 deal 係 take it or leave it。
主席，我有咩分別咧？
唔係有分別，我想知道究竟迪士尼幾時同你講呢個 deal 係 take it or leave it
好嘅一個方案。
最奇怪嘅就係咩咧？你有2個人去談判，點解淨係迪士尼可以講到 take it or leave it 嘅啫？你有冇提出嗰個捍衛香港人利益，跟住唔要就罷就嘅方案啦？
而家冇人話唔發展，但係發展都唔可以俾人撳住搶當提款機，洗濕咗個頭，咪吹翻乾佢咯。邊個叫你哋咁快落埋洗頭水呢？
After 5 months of heated debate and lobbying, on Tuesday, the Legislative Council's Finance Committee approved by 30 votes to 24 a $5.45 billion funding request to expand Hong Kong Disneyland. The Walt Disney Company will contribute the same amount to the upgrade. So far, the SAR hasn't exactly seen remarkable returns on cash already invested. Critics argue that the deal has long worked very much to Disney's benefit, as the company receives millions of dollars in royalties and management fees, even as the park loses money. By 2023, the park will feature new zones based on the blockbuster Frozen and Marvel superhero films. Sleeping Beauty's castle is also due for an upgrade. Gregory So says he expects the expansion will bring up to 8,000 jobs. It's yet to be seen whether the upgrade, totaling $10.9 billion, will bring more tourists, particularly for overnight stays. The competition, even from Disney itself, is getting increasingly intense.
I've heard recently of Dalian Wanda, who has a program to open 20 parks in China over the next few years. These are very big, powerful investors. I think that bringing Marvel stories, bringing Frozen, bringing Iron Man, those are very good ideas, but you cannot sleep on it. You need to constantly add new attractions and refresh attractions. The scale of Hong Kong Disneyland is still relatively small. It's 1/3 the size of Shanghai. There's a risk that in its current scale, it may stay as a kind of a secondary one-day destination.
Well, with us in the studio is Mike Rouse, who, as a senior official in the finance department, was principally responsible for the negotiations over the Disney deal. Let me ask you this. This deal gave Disney something like half the equity, and they paid something like 15% of the investment. They are going to make money out of this park, even when nobody else is making money, i.e. the biggest investor, the Hong Kong government. They take royalty, they take a percentage of the turnover, they take a bite out of the merchandising. You were sold a dud, weren't you?
No. I think you sound a bit like Michael Eisner presenting it to the Disney board back in 1999. No, the finances were on the public works side, the pier, the transport interchange, the police station, the fire station, the water supplies and everything. These are public works, and we paid 100% for those because that's what we do for all the land in Hong Kong. The park itself... Well, except none of those things would need to have been there if there wasn't a Disneyland. Whatever we did with that land would have needed those facilities. Yeah, so in a way it was common to anything we did with the land. And we paid 57% of the cash equity. Disney paid 43% of the cash equity back in 1999, 2000, which was when I was involved in when you say the cash equity, you mean the actual park construction, none of the other costs? Yes. So what was the money spent on the park? There was some financing as well, loans raised from banks and also a loan from the government, but everyone got shares proportionate to the equity investment that they made. And I think what's often forgotten now is that this is a 100-year deal that we entered into with Disney. The lease for the land in Hong Kong Disneyland runs for 100 years, 50 plus 50, automatic renewal with no additional premium to be paid. And when you enter into a relationship like that, you recognise that there are going to be ups and downs, that different partners are going to have the advantage at different stages. But at the time, we went to LegCo 7 times in 1 month in November 1999 to get the members to sign off on the deal, which they did. Well, some people may say, oh my God, 100 years of the Disney park making losses, never having met any of the targets that we were told it was going to meet. And as for all these illusory economic benefits that were going to accrue to Hong Kong, for the fairies, isn't it? No, a jaundiced view. I appreciate it. Strategically, and remember, halfway through the negotiations, I was made the first Commissioner for Tourism. What we were at that time was a leading centre for business travellers. We were a leading destination for adult travellers. We were not a first choice destination for family holidays. Now, people who came here with their family did do things. They did go to Ocean Park. It already existed. People sitting down in Malaysia, Philippines and so on planning their holiday. Hong Kong for a family was not top of mind until we had Disney. Now, the first few years, inevitably, with something as capital intensive as that, it was a loss. But we had 3 then good, profitable years. Well, the reason why people are upset about this, as you know, is because it involves billions upon billions of dollars of taxpayers' money. And we've just seen that LegCo has recently had to approve another $5.4 billion in taxpayers' money. Very wise decision and an excellent decision. And what return is Hong Kong going to see on that? Well, name one other facility in Hong Kong funded by taxpayers' funds that is anywhere near as popular with Hong Kong people as Hong Kong Disneyland. Remember, about roughly 30% or more of the guests each year are Hong Kong people. That's Hong Kong families. It can be 1 generation, 2 generations, 3 generations, 4 generations going around the park together and having a fabulous day out. But this gives us something brand different. It gives us something new. And we put a lot of money into it. Disney put a lot of money into it. Yes, they do make money out of it. I hope so. We want them to be. Well, they make money out of it regardless of the loss that's made every single year. remember, it hasn't made a loss every single year.
Well, it's made profits for 2 years.
3 years, and the accounting losses are largely due to the huge amounts of depreciation and amortization.
Well, that's in any business.
Yes, it is in any business. But remember, if you set conservative parameters on those things and write the capital costs off quickly over a short time, you're bound to run losses immediately after you've made a big capital investment.
Well, I think you'll find that's the typical way business works in Hong Kong.
Yep.
I don't think this project is doing... All it's doing is eating up money. So the answer as to why the Hong Kong taxpayer invested billions and billions of dollars in Disneyland was that we take the best from everywhere?
Yes, it was a fabulous idea. It's a fabulous facility. It was money well spent. We got $2 trillion of Hong Kong people's money stuck away in the bank. To spend another $5 billion on this is peanuts. We make more than that in interest.
Why didn't Disney itself want to put the money in? They were quite happy to do that in Shanghai.
The return on equity numbers are what determines Disney's investment, and indeed ours. And the return on equity investment was, should we say, modest.
Is that a weasel way of saying they wouldn't have made any money if they'd invested themselves?
No, they would have made some, but obviously they're a commercial organisation. They've got shareholders in America. The amount they were prepared to risk on cash equity definitely had a limit.
Mike Rouse, thank you very much indeed. And we'll be back after the break. Welcome back. Mobile apps, the rise of the digital economy and the financial crisis all played a part in the flourishing of what's been called, not always entirely accurately, the sharing economy. This includes businesses such as Uber and Lyft, as well as other collaborative consumption models like Kickstarter, Etsy and Airbnb. Many of these businesses involve sharing goods and services, but critics say that when they label themselves as examples of the shared economy, they are in reality operating on traditional profit models, making companies like Uber akin to a wolf in sheep's clothing. All the same, there's no denying that these innovations are challenging traditional business, and that doesn't make them universally popular.
Describing itself as a station-less bike-sharing platform, Gobi Bike is currently providing 1,000 bicycles in Taiwan, Sha Tin, Taipo and elsewhere. Customers locate and rent its bicycles via a mobile app.
小朋友踩單車，見到我小朋友踩單車，咁我嘗試用埋呢個車，睇下用效果係點樣樣咯。如果代步嘅話係 OK 嘅。
Around 1,000 cities worldwide have successful bike-sharing systems. But in Hong Kong, Gobi Bike is facing obstacles. Since it was launched just 2 weeks ago, several of its bicycles have been thrown into the Sha Tin River. There have also been objections that customers are allowed to leave bikes in public parking spaces.
We have no interest in using bicycle parking spot that everyone else is using. But when we did some investigation before launching, we were walking around, we found that during the week, 90% of the parking spots are empty. No one is using them, right? I mean, that's why we created that, and that's why we're using them. Those bicycle parking spots, if anyone feels disturbed that our bikes are using too much space, they contact us, we move them immediately.
Gobi Bike is the first bike-sharing platform to hit Hong Kong. Before its launch, its representative held discussions with various government departments, including the Lands Department, Transport Department, and the police, to discuss where its bicycles could be parked. The departments all played a role in removing bicycles that are parked illegally. The regulation stipulates that the bicycle should be left in designated bicycle parking spaces and should not remain there for more than 24 hours. The Lands Department says that if it sees any unlawful occupation of unleased government land, it will take action.
Hong Kong government has been very supportive, so the police has been helping us a lot, the Land Transportation Department. We agree that we'll determine together where the best place is.
Inevitably, some of the bikes are parked near long-established bike rental businesses in Taiwan and Sha Tin. And those shops say the competition is having an impact on them.
點都有影響㗎，要攞政府啲泊車位嚟咁樣嚟自己做商業嘅生意，梗係唔得啦咁樣。如果咁樣你泊，我哋做單車嘅唔使交租，我哋都可以泊晒啲車度，同你一樣係咁樣做，咁樣整到個市容好似唔係幾好咁咯。你知道而家啲租啦，攬埋都10萬8萬一個月㗎，唔公平啊對我哋都。
我覺得高邊bike就有少少夾硬騎劫呢個 sharing economy 呢個船嘅。其實就根本上其實係佢係一間公司，係一個商業行為。佢籌咗筆錢就去爭呢一個喺，仲要唔係城市裏面喎，佢爭呢一個喺沙田去到呢一個大埔嘅嗰個單車徑嗰一個市場。咁我覺得嗰個係比較奇怪嘅，即係如果佢夾硬話自己係商業，我覺得佢係 marketing 多啲啦。
We're a tech company. We're not a bicycle rental shop. That's a very big difference. I've been working in tech and e-commerce for the past 8 years. I see that as a totally different business. We're bringing technology to make the city a lot more efficient.
What is important, though, is to have a sharing economy that can provide a genuine sense of sharing, so that it is not just a usual capitalistic business as usual kind of way of doing business, but an alternative way of thinking about how we can exchange our resources. I think that's sort of the gist of the sharing economy.
New technology is also having an effect on other modes of transport. Uber, for example, is provided an alternative to traditional taxi and other point-to-point services. Through its app, passengers can choose different levels and forms of service. Unlike taxi drivers, Uber drivers use their own vehicles. To be more competitive, both Uber and the traditional cabs have been upgrading their services for the disabled with bigger cars and trained drivers. Taxi company Chongqing provides its own transport for the disabled, SingCab.
輪椅嗰啲你唔好開咁快啦，即係好似我而家咁收慢，唔好揼得咁硬咯咁咯。自己揸起上嚟都覺得有種使命感喺度，即係好似幫到嗰啲有需要嘅人士啊咁。嗰啲傷殘人士啲乘客都成日話啊，你哋有你哋啲車真好啦。
過往嘅呢2年咧，個認受性其實都一路增強緊嘅。咁我哋都見到咧，其實業界有唔同嘅提供者咧，都有即係提供相類似嘅服務俾市民使用。
Uber's transport for the disabled is called Uber Assist.
We drive disabled people, we drive elderly people, and then we have special training to handle their wheelchairs, handle the equipment, how to load them into the cars. Like for example, some of the wheelchairs are folded in the middle, some have detachable wheels, and how to handle those. We learn all those when we go to the training.
John says he isn't worried about legal challenges to Uber in Hong Kong, even though 5 local Uber drivers have been fined $10,000 each for providing a car for hire without a permit or third-party insurance. The general manager of Uber Hong Kong, Kenneth Shi, says the government should revise its current policy.
What we're seeing is that a lot of these laws and regulations in Hong Kong are written decades ago, which could be outdated, which may not fit into the new world with mobile apps and technology, for instance. So we definitely encourage the government to revisit these laws, for sure.
It's hard to have a genuine sharing economy if the rules and regulations do not change. If the rules and regulations do not change, then you can only encourage businesses that will, use, old practices that they can survive in the existing rules and regulations.
Local taxi services have long been faced with complaints of drivers refusing to take fares, jacking up prices, or simply having a bad attitude. The government says it agrees that the existing system for point-to-point transport services must move forward rather than stand still. But it's still resisting legalizing Uber. Instead, it's suggesting licensing another 600 franchised taxis that should provide a higher quality of service. It proposes 3 franchises, each operating 200 vehicles. This approach works very much to the benefit of companies like the mainland's Didi Chuxing, which has already bought out Uber there, and is now working on introducing a premium service in Hong Kong through the Kuaidi cab-hailing app. Many stakeholders in the industry do agree there's room for improvement, but they don't all agree that introducing new franchises is the best way to improve things.
我成日強調就係市民大眾政府要嘅成個的士服務好啊嘛，係呢萬幾部車做好啊嘛，唔係等於600部車取代咗成個的士服務啊嘛，我覺得呢個係關鍵咯。
So, what will it take to achieve the so-called Great Reconciliation to end the rift in our society? Democratic Party leader Wu Chi-wai was quickly shouted down when he suggested that incoming Chief Executive Carrie Lam should pardon Occupy Central protesters and the 8 police officers charged for their overzealousness in handling the protest. Liberal Party leader Felix Chong suggested a roundtable involving both sides. And then on Thursday, some pan-democratic and pro-establishment lawmakers sat down for a lunch initiated by DAB chairwoman Starry Lee. Goodness knows what they ate, but we do know that The Pulse will be back next week. Goodbye.